What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Kozmo deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun deck to play that can summon out all sorts of awesome boss monsters to help you go in for game. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dark Destroyer. Dark Destroyer is our main boss monster for the deck and has an awesome ability that if it's normal or special summon, you can actually target a monster on the field and destroy it, and it also cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, which is a great ability to give this card a little bit of protection and also pop monsters on the field. This card also floats into your other Kozmo monsters if it's destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, which is a great ability to just instantly float into one of your other Kozmo monsters. We then play a single copy of Dark Eclipser. Dark Eclipser is great as a one-of build to basically just use this card to negate trap cards, but this card is a little bit unique because if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card in the graveyard and then add a level 8 or lower Kozmo monster from your deck to your hand, grabbing the exact card that you need from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Forerunner. Forerunner is great as a one-up in the build because this card has the ability that you actually gain 1,000 life points during your standby phase, which is a great ability because some of your Kozmo monsters actually require you to pay life points. So this card is really good as a one-of in the build. We then play 2 copies of Slip Rider. Slip Rider is great as a 2-of in the build to basically just pop spells and traps on the field when it's summoned out, which is absolutely amazing. We then play 2 copies of Dark Lady. Dark Lady is awesome as a 2-of in the build because this card has the ability that quick effect, you can banish this card and then special summon a level 6 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand, which will help you bring out your copy of Dark Destroyer to your side of the field. Also, this card is a monster negate once per turn, which is an awesome ability, as once per turn, when another monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points to negate the activation if you destroy that monster, which is a great effect to be able to use. We then play a single copy of Farm Girl. Farm Girl is great as a one-of in the build, but you only need a single copy of this card. This card has the ability that during either player's turn, you can banish this card and then special summon a level 4 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand. And you only see the effect of this card once per turn. Also, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can actually pay 500 life points to add a Kozmo card from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to instantly get to the exact card that you need. We then play a single copy of Sword Trooper. Sword Trooper is amazing as a one-of in the build, but again, just like your copy of Farm Girl, you really only need a single copy of this card. This card has the ability that during either player's turn, you can actually banish this card and then special summon a level 4 or higher Kozmo monster from the hand. But this card's unique ability is once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and then target a psychic type Kozmo monster in your graveyard and special summon it, basically bringing out one of your pilots back to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Strawman. Strawman is great as a 2-of in the build because this card has a super unique effect that if this card's on your side of the field, you can pay 500 life points and then target one of your banished Kozmo monsters and special summon it, but its effects are negated and destroyed during the end phase, but it's a great ability to instantly bring back a monster to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Tin Can. Tin Can is the best normal summon in the entire deck. This card is absolutely insane for the build and such a powerful card because it has the ability that during either player's turn, you banish this card and then special summon a level 2 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand, basically bringing out any Kozmo monster you want to your side of the field besides another copy of Tin Can. This card also has the ability once per turn during the end phase, you can actually pay 500 life points to reveal 3 Kozmo cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks one of them to add to your hand, and you send the rest to the graveyard, basically setting you up for other plays while also grabbing one of your Kozmos to your hand, so your copy of Tin can tag out for that card, which is really nice. You usually want to be able to grab a copy of Dark Destroyer off this card's effect, and it's just really good to be able to use so you can bring out your copy of Dark Destroyer extremely easily. We then play 2 copies of Psychic Processor. Psychic Processor is great in the deck as a 2, just to help you bring out your monsters from your hand, because this card has the ability you can actually banish this card you control, and then special summon it to 2 Machine, Psychic, or Cyberse monsters from your hand, and they can attack directly this turn, making it super easy to go in for game. But I'm just playing 2 copies in the build because it's super easy to bring out with E-Telly, and this card also has the ability during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you can actually add this banished card back to your hand so you can use it over and over again. We then play a single copy of Ecclesia. Ecclesia is really good as a 1-of in the build to search out your other Dogmatica cards, and it's just awesome in the deck as a 1-of because you can actually search this card off Nadir. We then play a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis. Fleur-de-Lis is awesome in the deck. This card is basically a walking imperm, which is such a powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Maximus. Maximus is one of the most important cards in the entire deck, as we have so many different targets in the extract to be able to use with our copy of Maximus, as this card is the ability to banish a Fusion, Synchro, Exit, or Link monster from the grave to special summon this card in the hand, and during the main phase you can activate this effect to send 2 monsters with different names from your extract to the graveyard, and then your opponent has to send 2 monsters from their extract to the graveyard, and also you cannot special summon monsters in the extract for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine because usually what you're trying to get to is your copy of Shadow Schism by sending a Pokemon to the graveyard plus another card so that you can summon out your copy of Winda during your opponent's turn, locking down your opponent from only special summoning once per turn, which is a really cool thing to be able to do because it really is awesome to be able to have a copy of Winda and Dark Destroyer on your side of the field to basically just control the board. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with 2 copies of Psychic Arsenal. Psychic Arsenal is kind of like a copy of Rhoda for the deck, which is why I play this card as a 2-of in the build. It lets you actually target a psychic monster you control and then pay life points equal to its level times 200 to add a machine monster with the same attribute and a higher level from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to grab the exact card you need off this card's effect. Also, during your main phase, if this card's in your graveyard, you can actually target 1 each of your banished psychic and machine monsters and place 1 of them on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, add the other to your hand, which is a great effect. We then play 3 copies of Nadir. Nadir is really good as a 3-of in the build to basically just get to your Dogmatica cards, and the card you usually want to send to the graveyard off this card's effect is Garura, so you get an additional draw off this card's effect, but it does lock you out of the extract for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal in this deck. We then play 3 copies of E-Telly. E-Telly is definitely a 3-of in the build, so we can basically bring out our pilots to our side of the field, so we can tag them into cards like Dark Destroyer. We then play 3 copies of Kozmo Town. Kozmo Town is really good as a 3-of field spell in the deck. This card has the ability once per turn, you can target 1 of your banished Kozmo monsters and return it back to hand. If you lose life points equal to its original level times 100. And once per turn, you can reveal any number of Kozmo monsters in your hand, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw cards equal to the number of cards you shuffled into the deck off this card's effect. And if this card in the field zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can actually add a Kozmo card from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to grab the exact card that you need off this card's effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Shadow Schism. Shadow Schism is great in the deck as 1-of because it's super easy to get to with your copy of a Pokemon, as all you have to do is send your copy of a Pokemon from the extract to the graveyard, search this card from your deck to your hand, discard a card, and then be able to set this card out to your side of the field so you can make a copy of Winda during your opponent's turn by banishing materials to summon it, which will be your copy of a Pokemon plus any dark monster, which is really cool. But this card is awesome to help you lock down the field by summoning out your copy of Winda to your side of the field. We then played 2 copies of Kozmojo. Kozmojo is really good as a 2-of in the build just to help you banish cards off the field. And this card lets you actually target a Kozmo monster you control and destroy it. And if you banish a card from your opponent controls or in their graveyard, non-targeting, which is such a cool ability to be able to just get rid of your opponent's cards, which is really nice. We then played 2 copies of Back to the Front. Back to the Front is basically like Monster Reborn for the deck, but this card is the ability to let you target a monster in your graveyard and special summon it defense position, which is a great ability to help you bring your Kozmo monsters back to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatic Punishment is awesome as a 3 on the build, just to help you pop monsters on the field, while also getting some really cool targets in our extract to the graveyard, so their effects go off as well. It does lock you out of the extract for that turn and the rest of the next turn, but that's not that big of a deal in this deck because we have cards like Dark Destroyer in our main deck. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Winda. Winda's an awesome 1-of in the deck. This card is just so cool to be able to summon out to your side of the field once you've got your copy of Dark Destroyer and Dark Lady on the field. This card is amazing to be able to summon out because it's super easy to summon off the effect of Shadow Schism, as this card basically makes it so each player can only special summon once per turn, helping us control the board. We can play a single copy of a Pokelone. A Pokelone is how we actually search out our copy of Schism, and it's one of the materials we're going to use with our copy of Schism to bring out our copy of Winda to our side of the field. This card is the ability to send to the graveyard. You actually get to add a shadow card from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then discard a card, being able to search out your copy of Schism from your deck to your hand, and then discard a card so we can bring out Winda to our side of the field. We then play a single copy of Titanic Lab. This card is just a really good Dogmatic punishment target, and a really cool card to be able to send to the graveyard because it helps you special summon your Dogmatic monsters during the end phase of the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Elder Emptiness. This card helps us pop cards on the field, making this card a really good 1-of in the deck. We'll play a single copy of Garua so we can draw cards when it does touch the graveyard. A single copy of Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is really good in the deck. One of the few monsters we actually summon in this build, because the extract is basically just Dogmatic punishment targets and deer targets and even Maximus targets. But this card is really good to be able to summon out to your side of the field, because if it does touch the field, it spot removes card off the field, and you don't even have to use a tuner to make this card. Depending on what you use to make this card, either light or dark monsters or both, depends on the effects that it gets, which is really cool. We play a single copy of Omega just as another Dogmatic punishment target, and this card has the ability to help you basically, if it's in the graveyard, target one of your other cards in the graveyard and shove both it and this card back in the deck, which is a great effect. We play a single copy of Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus just helps us get cards off the field. You can actually banish this card and then target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. We play a single copy of Nova and a single copy of Infinity. These cards you do summon out from the extract to be able to just establish a negate. By using 2 copies of Slip Rider, you can summon out your copy of Nova and then Infinity to establish a negate, and your copy of Infinity can eat cards off the field. We play a single copy of Dingirsu just to be able to use this card to spot remove cards off the field and help us make a copy of Zeus. We then play a single copy of Aggregator. Aggregator is really good as a 1-of in the build to be able to use, as this card is actually a negate when it does touch the graveyard, which is really nice. We play a single copy of Zeus just to help us board wipe the field just in case we need to, and it's very easy to make either with your copy of Dingirsu or your copy of Infinity. We then play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon belongs in every single deck. It's just a really cool 1-of in the build to basically just use this card to bounce cards off the field, but it's a great 1-of in this deck, especially if you're going second. And then finally, for the only Link monster, we're playing a single copy of the Tri-Brigade Arms, because if this card does touch the graveyard, you can send a copy of Garua to the graveyard, which is really nice to be able to use with your copy of Punishment, and it's overall a fantastic card. You can play a second copy of Garua if you want to, by changing it out for, say, a Wind Pegasus or even Titanic Lad if you want to. You could even change out Aggregator if you wanted to, instead of playing it, to play a second copy of Garua, so you'd have 2 targets, one for your copy of your Nadir, and 1 copy for your Tri-Brigade Arms for your copy of Garua, which will give you a draw every time it touches the graveyard once per turn. But overall, another spicy tech card you could include in this deck is Ultimate Slayer, because you're having so many different targets you can send to the graveyard off Ultimate Slayer as well, which is another option for you guys if you'd like to include it in this deck. So, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Kozmo deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try, especially this build, because this build can do some absolutely insane plays, and it's super fun to be able to play with all the spicy techs I included in this build for you guys. So, that's going to be this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.